Hi, I'm Florence Felsheim and I'm doing my PhD at the University of St. Andrews. As said, I'm in the very first year, actually the first semester, month 2 or 3 of my research. So instead of presenting what I have done this far, I will present what I aim to achieve for my thesis. So my research focuses on the ancient cult of the god Mithras, also known as Mithraism, which spread through the Roman Empire from the 1st to the 4th century CE. The Mithraic cult was a unique so-called mystery cult. That means that only its members knew its tenets, and even today, that still presents some challenges for scholarship. We do know that it involved a special initiation ceremony, a membership hierarchy, and secret rituals about death and rebirth and the salvation of the soul. The Mithraists were particularly fascinated by the cosmos and crafted their temples as allegories of the universe and their sacred iconographies as representations of celestial bodies and of their movements. Mithraism was spread through the empire by the Roman army, which means that it came into contact with other cults and belief systems in the provinces. Although recent scholarship has had a bit of a tendency to treat this cult as a Roman monolith, it is clear that it was syncretized with other cults and other belief systems and traditions at the local scale. One of the defining features of Mithraism is actually its very strong sense of community, which means that it was forged through the secrecy of rituals and would have created links between Roman soldiers and provincial locals, and therefore fostered cultural exchanges. That's why one set of my research questions deals with the more social aspects of Mithraism, such as what can regional variations in this culture reveal about local social structures in the Roman provinces, and also in how far can religious syncretism, that is the merging of two or more religious belief systems into one new system, be considered representative of cultural dynamics. So Mithraism is a uniquely variable cult that relied more on symbolism and iconography rather than an overarching doctrine to share its tenets. And concretely, that means that the cult members had great interpretative freedom. This adaptability makes the Mithraic cult very interesting to study from a cognitive perspective. So this is why I'm using also the field of cognitive sciences of religion, abbreviated CSR, in my research because it offers a very useful methodological framework. The aim of CSR is to understand why religious thought and action are so common amongst humans, and why religious phenomena, such as organized cults, take on the features that they do, which makes it ideal for understanding this particular cult and addressing the needs of my research. So a few scholars have already worked on the cognitive experiences of Mithraism in the last decade, but have focused on the more mainstream italic experiences, such as, for example, its symbolic language based on astronomy, or the temple spatial system, which mapped metaphorical journeys of death and rebirth. So there has not really been much done about studying it at the local scale. So this is why I'm studying Roman Gaul as my focus. Gaul is a really unique place for Mithraism, as it offers tangible, observable shift in ritual approach. We can see that over the course of 2 centuries, the cult changes from a solar militaristic cult into a water-based healing cult, following the blueprint, I'll say, of the Gallic spring cults. So that's the main aim of my thesis, is to study the multifaceted cognitive experiences of this cult with, as my focus, Roman Gaul. I'm going to be asking questions of the evidence, such as which shape did religious syncretism take in the particular case of Gallo-Roman Mithraism, and what does the observable shift in ritual approach mean for the cognitive experience of the cult members. So in order to do this, I'm going to create immersive reconstructions of Mithraic temples in virtual reality. So in my work, I define immersive or immersion as creating the perception of being fully present in a virtual space through the use of sensory stimuli. So since I'm using virtual reality, for me, it's going to be mainly auditive and visual stimuli, because I can't really create touch, taste, or smell in virtual reality, but I'm going to create, in addition to the visual space of the Mithraism, I'm going to be creating, for example, small-scale animations of torches or of pools of water. I'm going to be adding also the corresponding noises like crackling fire, water sounds, maybe even the shuffling of sandals, all these little cues to make the soundscape as immersive as possible, the whole landscape as immersive as possible. So VR will be used in two ways in my research. So first, it will allow me to study the response of participants who will enter the space and answer ethics-approved questions as to their experience. So in addition to my methodology, which includes analyses of iconography, epigraphy, art, architecture, obviously CSR theories, it will help me to retrace the effects of religious syncretism on the cognitive experiences of the cult. And secondly, VR will also be used as a tool of research as part of my methodology. Creating virtual models is a process of very precise data gathering. You have to think about the precise measures, angles, reliefs, colors, textures, questions which are not asked or asked differently of 2D models, such as drawings or even digital sketches. There's a lot of research, of documentation and archiving in and of itself, which are all essential features of the digitization of heritage. So this opens up another set of my research questions, namely, in how far can VR be used as a tool of research for ancient history and archaeology? What does VR concretely offer, which traditional approaches have lacked thus far? How effective is VR for research linked to human cognition? What are its benefits and what are its challenges and shortcomings? And finally, more broadly, how can we use the technologies of today to access and study the ancient world? So as I have said already, I'm still in very early stages of my PhD. So I do not have any significant findings as of yet, but I already have faced some challenges. So the first one is applicability. It is impossible to recreate the exact experience from an ancient person who lived somewhat 2,000 years ago. So much has changed: culture, society, belief system, approaches to religion. The way an ancient Roman or an ancient Gallic person conceived of religion is miles, worlds away from the way we think about religion now. So for this reason, my work focuses more on the experience of the space itself, rather than the attempt to recreate specific conditions or try and capture an ancient mindset, which is, of course, impossible. The second challenge I faced is practicality, because at this stage, virtual reality is just not very practical yet. The headsets are still rather large and heavy, and they kind of weigh down on your face. So that already kind of stifles in itself the immersive quality of the experience. I think up until the very recent models, for example, the Oculus Quest that came out this year and last year, the headsets also necessitated a cable connection and had like very limited guardian range, the guardian being the invisible wall that demarcates how far a person can physically move without bumping into obstacles such as furniture. Though that being said, increasingly lighter and smaller models can be expected in the next 5 to 10 years, so hopefully this issue of practicality will not be a very long-lived one. And also another thing about the very recent headset is that we have options for so-called hand tracking. So usually with virtual reality headsets, you need controllers, but with hand tracking, the headset already kind of sees where your hands are, and so you can actually interact in the virtual space with virtual objects. So that obviously adds another layer to the immersion of the experience. And sorry. And finally, there's the cost. As VR is still rather expensive, averaging I think about 600 or 700 pounds per headset. So if you're just only using it for your own personal purposes, that's fine. But if you're going to use it, for example, for education or research, if you're going to bulk buy it for your department, it would require adequate funding. That being said, despite these challenges, this project will offer new ways of using and thinking about digitization of cultural heritage, namely to study the elusive but not inaccessible cognitive experiences of past religious cults. Not only a way of studying the ancient world, but also preserving it and allowing modern audiences to visualize lost environments. Thank you very much.